Chapter 5, Lesson 2 of Advanced Algebra, we're going to wrap this up by looking at the minimum and maximum values of these quadratics. And again, we've talked about before that the min and the max values are points of concern to us because when we are applying these to real-world data, we're often looking for the maximum amount of something or the minimum amount of something. And in these first few lessons, this is the point of interest. So being able to determine that value is going to be very important. Now, if you connect those with what we've been doing as we've been graphing, remember when there's no linear term, we found the vertex by simply a shift up the y-axis by that value of c. So we could determine the value of the vertex simply by doing 0 and then the shift. In the next video, we looked and we found the vertex by doing the opposite of b over 2a. Remember that giving us the x value of the vertex, and remember that's the where it is. And then by substituting that value into the expression, we determine what the y value was of the vertex. Remember, that's the what is a vertex. So when we're looking at word problems or applying these or determining the minimum or maximum value, we're going to be doing the exact same thing using one of those two methods to determine where that min or max is, and then looking at the y value if we want to know what the maximum is, or the x value if we want to know where it occurs. There is one other method that we'll talk about in this video, and then we'll do some examples for you in class, but and that's how to do that if you're going to use your calculator. Now, seeing how I said the word calculator, let's talk about that. When you're doing word problems and the quadratic equations are not nice real numbers, in many cases they're not because real world data doesn't fall on nice real numbers in most cases. When you're using or applying these to word problems, that's when you want to go ahead and use your calculator. Don't spend time trying to calculate these max and mins on word problems by doing the opposite of b over 2a and then substituting those values in and doing all that arithmetic. It gets very confusing because you'll be dealing with a lot of fractions and decimals and those types of things. So really work when you're applying these to the word problems to go ahead and use your calculator. That's the time to use it. Okay, so real quick review then. The y-coordinate of the vertex represents the min or the max. And again, that's the what. What is the min or the max? Remember, if the a value, if it opens up, if the parabola opens up, then that vertex is going to be at the bottom, so it will be a minimum. If the parabola opens down, that vertex will be at the top, so it will be a maximum. The y value is the one we're looking at, and remember the y value is determined by, once we know the opposite of b over 2a, the x value, substituted in, that gives us the y. And again, what is the max? That's the y value. Where is the max? That is the x value. Now, when you're doing this on a calculator, I'll give you the steps and then I'll show you an example. First of all, the steps is once you have the quadratic equation written, then you go ahead, solve it for y, and then use your y equal key and enter in the expression on that line. Then you go ahead and select graph. Then what you'll want to use is do the blue key and then the trace key. Right above the trace, you'll notice it says calc. We talked about these when we were doing intersections. You use the calc, only this time you want to calculate the min or the max, so you'll choose that option. You'll then get those questions in the bottom left corner. Give the left bound, so you'll want to move that cursor so it's to the left of the min or the max as it goes up or down. Once it's to the left, you select enter. It will then ask you to give the right bound or maybe the maximum. So you'll move it to the right of the min or the max. Once it's to the right, you select enter. Then it will ask you for the guess. Just go ahead and select enter. The reason it's asking you guess is because if there's more than one min or more than one max, it will want to know which one you want, which one you would like to calculate, and it will calculate the one that it's closest to. So you would have to move it closer to the one or the other. Okay, so that's how you do it. Those are the steps. And again, in many cases, read the problem because the expression is given. They tell you what the equation is, then they're simply asking for what is the min or the max. You're simply going to graph it, find the max, give me the y value, and that is going to be the point you're looking for. Okay, so let me get my calculator screen up here, and then I'll show you how to do that on the calculator. Okay, so here's an example where we have a quadratic graph. So I entered in 3x squared plus 3x plus 3, and you might want to try this on your own calculator and then follow along. And I can see that the minimum is right along in here. Now I want to calculate it. So you'll go to your blue key second, and then go to your trace key, and right above it says calculate, and you'll want to calculate, and you'll come up with a menu that looks something like this: 0, min, max, intersection. Again, we talked about intersection before. In this case, I want to find the minimum because it's the lowest, so I'll select minimum. And then you'll notice in the screen it says in the lower left corner, it says lower bound. Yours might say left bound, or might say lower bound, whatever. It means the same thing. You'll notice that the vertex is somewhere right in here, and then on your graph you'll see a little flashing cursor, and if you scroll to the left or right, it will move along the parabola, whether to the left or the right. Now what you want to do is you want to move it so it's to the left of the vertex. So you'll notice I have this little dotted line on my screen, and I'm going to move this finger up and along the parabola, and you'll notice that the line moves to the left and to the right. So what the calculator is asking you is, please put the cursor so it's to the left of the vertex. So once I get over here to the left, I go ahead and select enter. Then it wants to the upper bound. So now I move it, and you'll notice a cursor again until I get on the other side of the min or the max. So that will be the upper bound, and I select enter. And then yours will say guess. You go ahead and press enter, and it will give you the x and the y coordinate of the minimum or the max. So again, here's the minimum. It's at negative 0.5, so that's the where. The what is the min, I think I said max. This is the min at 2.25. And so I can calculate it that way. So again, you'll need to put it to the left. So let me walk through that real quickly one more time. So you'll want to go to your second calculate menu. You're going to want to find the minimum. You'll need to put your cursor so it's to the left of the minimum. And then you'll need to put it to the right of the minimum. And then you select enter, and it'll print out, and then press enter, and that will give you the coordinate of the minimum or the maximum, depending on what it is. So that's how you do it. And if you have more trouble or more questions than that, we can do a few more examples in class with a little bit of hands-on if you need. So calculate it with your calculator when you're applying to a word problem. But remember, the min or the max, you can do it algebraically or by hand by doing the opposite of b over 2a. That gives you the x. In this case, you'd get negative 0.5. Then you take negative 0.5, substitute it in for x, and simplify it. That will give you the y, 2.25, and then you have all the information you need to answer the question.